Yes, if you can go, I'm just gonna kind of hit four levels of value. Um, as we're talking about financial literacy. And uh I am Coach Nick knows I am a fundamentalist. I believe in principles. I believe in starting at the root level, at the rudimentary level. And so money is a spiritual byproduct. Money is a spiritual byproduct. So a lot of times people think that money is, something that you chase, something that you are constantly trying to get. And I share with you that that is, the best way to get money is not to chase money, but it is to become the person, right? So it's be, do, have. You must become the person that can do the thing and then have the outcome. And so I'm fixing this through this four levels of value. I'm going to show you that money is a spiritual byproduct. And so if you want to make money, you need to focus on solving problems, creating value, and serving people. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but if you want money, you need to focus on serving people, solving problems, and creating value. So the first level of value is going to be implementation. Implementation. That means you are the person that does the thing. And so as I'm going through this, this is not to offend anybody. I come from a blue collar background. I started off as a mover. I worked for many moving companies. I started my own moving company. I used to be out on the truck, moving furniture. I've done, construction stuff. So I'm speaking from a level of practicality and things that I have done. Not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what I know. So the first level is the implementer or implementation. So you are the person that does the thing, right? So if you are the truck driver, if you're the person that if you are the janitor, the person that mops the floor, the person that actually does the thing, right? Then that is, you are working through your flesh. You are working through your strength, right? And so that is the lowest level of value um that you can work from, right? And so you're at the lowest level. And so typically people at this level make anywhere from minimum wage to probably about $40,000 a year, 50,000 dollars a year, um going toward the high end, right? And so the next level of value would be unification. Unification, which means you are the person that manages the person that does the thing, right? So this is like management, all right? So this is like people who oversee other people and other projects, right? So typically a manager or unifier is going to make somewhere between low end probably $50,000 a year and high end maybe $150,000 a year. Once you get to, high end management, right? And so that is a higher level of value, being able to manage people and personalities and put, people and things and projects together. That is a high level of value than being the person that actually does the task, right? And so then we get to the third level of value, which is communication. Communication. So communication is the ability to speak to the hearts and minds of individuals and create a feeling, right? This is what great communicators do. So a low level communicator is gonna make $100,000 a year. If a low at the lowest level, most public speakers make, six figures a year, right? And then if we look at, the highest level communicators, like artists and A-list actors, right? Then those people can make 100 million a year, 200 million a year, 300 million a year. Your Michael Jacksons and your Princes, and whoever your favorite artist is. Those are high level communicators. All right, and so then we get to the fourth level of value, which is going to be imagination. Imagination. I believe Albert Einstein said, imagination is better than intellect, right? And so imagination is a spiritual value, right? This is an idea. You have been sitting somewhere and you just have a voila moment, like, oh man, like where did that come from? And you have this great idea. Everything comes from an idea. One of my favorite quotes is, sow a thought, reap a action. Sow a action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. Right. So if we reverse engineer that, your your destiny is here. Right. It's on this side. Right. And but the entirety of your destiny comes from a thought process. Before I ever uh had a business, I had a thought for a business. It started with a thought, with an imagination, with a vision, right? And so until you develop a vision for your life and for who you are, where there's no vision, the people perish. It is impossible to have wealth, and the things that you desire without a vision for how you're going to get there, right? And so these are the four levels of value. And so you have to make sure that you are operating from the a proper framework to get you your desired outcome, right? So if I want generational wealth, if I want to be able to empower and impact the lives of many people for many generations, it is going to be difficult for me to do that at the lowest level of value, right? And so you got to make sure that you are aligning your interest and your desires along with the things that will get you, the vehicles that will get you the outcome that you want, right? And so I think that's an important foundation to understand, so that it's not about working harder, right? There's nothing wrong with hard work, because hard work, more than anything, works on you, right? It helps you develop a skill set, it helps you develop some patience, it helps you develop some character. But hard work, in essence, does not get you wealthy, right? It is the vehicle. What vehicle are you choosing to get to the destination is what's going to make you wealthy. So if I am on a bicycle and Coach Nick is he's riding in a Ferrari, it don't I'm working harder than he's working to pedal my bicycle. But Coach Nick will get there far before I will, because he has a better vehicle, right? And so I want everybody to kind of keep that in mind as we are learning these strategies, these techniques, and these different things, because you got to make sure that you are using the right vehicle to get you to wealth. Uh so that's my mindset piece for the evening, and I'm gonna kick it back over to Coach Nick. I appreciate y'all.
Appreciate you, Coach. And again, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. We looks like we still got some people coming in. This is, you know what I mean, a class that we'll be doing every week. Um, and just some housekeeping really quickly. Anybody has any questions, you can put it in the Q&A section, in the chat section. I'll be sure to kind of periodically check that, and we'll get to the questions at the end. So just to stay connected, make sure that we all stay connected. In terms of the class, if you're not able to make a class for any reason, all the classes are going to be uploaded and put on our YouTube channel. And then also, if you go right here, we put this link in the chat, so you could just click on here. If you fill out this information right here, you'll be a part of our email list. We're gonna send out a free gift every week, right? So this week, we're focusing on real estate. We have the Women's Real Estate Investment Group from Alabama, so we're very blessed and excited to have them here joining us this week. Hopefully, they can join us every week. But we wanted to kind of cater this conversation around real estate, and real estate is really a foundation of wealth production. You know what I mean? And wealth creation, and that's kind of the essence of what we're talking about. But every time that y'all show up, or for every just for signing up, we're gonna give you a free gift every week. So this week, the free gift that we're giving everybody is it's this Google sheet right here, and I just want to show everybody how this is gonna go. Um, you're basically gonna pull up this form right here, and this is gonna allow you to create your own power team. You know what I mean? So if you're not familiar with a power team, you know, we have the different people that'll be real important and instrumental to your real estate team. So it's real important not only to have people that can do every aspect of business or in every aspect of real estate, but you want to have somebody that you can trust. You know, you don't want to be scrambling around looking for a contractor, looking for an insurance broker, looking for anybody like that. So that's something that we want to be intentional about. We consider this practice to be foundational. So this is going to be the action step for this week for your real estate business. If you have any questions about this or anything, at the bottom of this site, you can just click on customer service, and you can do a live chat with us. You could call us on the phone, email us, submit a ticket, whatever you want to do. We're just here to serve y'all. Okay. So that's pretty much all I got in terms of the housekeeping. Make sure that y'all register so y'all never miss a class and you get that free weekly gift. Okay. But jumping right into today's lesson, we're leveraging home ownership as a way to build your own bank. Okay. And for some of y'all that kind of looked at the description for this class, we were talking about who has more money than the bank, because you at the end of the day, you want to be the bank, but there's a very strategic way that you want to accomplish this goal, and so we're going to get to the answer to that question very shortly. So first things first, if you're starting from scratch, if y'all read, like, again, if you read the description from kind of beginning to end, if we're starting from scratch in 6 months to a year, we want to use home ownership as a tool for wealth creation. Okay. So no matter where you're at, we want to set our sights on getting your own home, right? So one of the easiest ways that we know to do this is to obtain a FHA loan, first time home buyers loan. Several of y'all have heard of that concept. What a lot of people don't know is it's just as easy to get a multi-unit through the FHA loan as it is to get a single family. So we want to be strategic. So a lot of people go into that home ownership route, but we want to be real strategic, right? Because we know that if we're purchasing assets, then we're building wealth. If we're purchasing liabilities, then we're like the rest of the Americans that have more debt than they do assets. You know what I mean? So we want to make sure that we use home ownership as an asset and a key to start that wealth creation process. So that's something to kind of think about, is what kind of home do I want to get? Okay, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit, but just some more about these requirements for the FHA loan. Credit wise, you can get in there with a 500 credit score. 500 to a 580. That's 10% down for the house. So just to make the numbers easy, if the house was $100,000, then you'd have to put $10,000 down with that type of credit score. Okay. From a 580 to a 680, you put 3.5% down. So for that same home that was $100,000, you could get in for 3,500. Okay. So immediately we're seeing the power of credit and the buying power just in this scenario alone. We're saving $6,500 just by raising our credit score. Okay. And as we all know, 580 is, it's still not that high, but that'll get you in that bracket, and that'll make you eligible for the 3.5% down payment to get into the home. Okay. And then income wise, we want to be have a job for at least 6 months to 24 months of steady income. Okay. So a lot of you guys, or a lot of y'all, will already have these requirements in place. So if you already have your credit and your income requirements in place, and you want to get started with the strategy that we're going to be going over tonight, you might be able to jumpstart or kind of fast forward to the point of the process to where you're linking up with a mortgage broker, um, and a lender that's gonna, get you that loan, and you can start this process immediately. Okay, um, so that's kind of the income requirements, and like I said, y'all can contact us directly on, and we'll have other classes on how to build your personal credit, how to build your business credit, and use that as leverage for not only the FHA loan but also other opportunities. And also another thing I forgot to mention: when you get this FHA loan, we want to have that 203K loan in mind as well, right? Because the 203K loan is strictly for the renovations. So the FHA loan will get you into the home. The 203K loan will allow you to have extra money for renovations to force appreciation, right? The renovation to force appreciation. So we want to, the idea is that we want to get into the home and basically not only have, the best home that we can have and have all the amenities that we want to have, but we want to raise the value of that home, right? Because the wealth, if we're going to participate in this concept and this process that we have outlined for you today, we want to pull the money out of this home, right? Um, but with that being said, research is key. Okay. And so I've heard that you guys are thinking about prop stream and everything like that. And for this next step, that's absolutely my favorite tool when it comes to doing research. Okay. And we can do another class just on prop stream. You know what I'm saying? People have done whole real estate classes. You can run a whole real estate business just with prop stream, finding motivated sellers, finding cash buyers, finding properties that meet certain qualifications, doing research on the property. They have an internal skip tracing software. So it's a powerful, powerful program. So definitely recommend that. But the main thing that we're going to be looking at in terms of being able to pull out as much money as possible, right? We want a house with some equity and we want a house in a good location. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why we say equity is it's obvious, right? Because we're going to be borrowing against the house, or we're going to be pulling on the equity in the house. And we have another third option that we're going to introduce you today. But we're first going to talk about two conventional ways that people kind of pull money out of their home, and then we have a third option for you today, right? But in all of these situations, the more equity that you have into your home, the better, right? And then always you want to be in a good location. We all know that location in real estate is always most important, because it just gives you options. You know what I'm saying? You might want to sublet, you might want a house hack. I'm sure a lot of y'all are familiar with the BRRRR method, and that's kind of the same concept that we're about to get into. But you want to have some options. You don't want to be in a location that's not favorable. You want to be in a location to where people are going to feel comfortable. There's a lot of things that you can kind of do with that. So location and equity is going to be very key, right? So once you get your credit and your income straight and you get to the point to where you'll be eligible for this loan, right? And you want to take advantage of all the resources that you can. I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard of NACA, NACA.com. You know what I mean? They got down payment assistance programs that can chop this down payment down even further. You know what I mean? Because the idea is we want to reduce the expenses, right? Reduce the outflow of cash and increase the inflow of cash, right? So this down payment and how much it costs to get into the property, we want to chop that down as much as we can. Okay, so I encourage everybody to kind of maybe get with one of your financial advisors. You can get with myself or Coach Jason directly, and we can kind of look at your situation to kind of gauge where you're at. And we'll get into more of that later at the end of this, right? But once you get your house, right? Once you get the house, now we want to start this wealth creation process, right? Because the end result is to build your own bank, right? And we're going to get into that really quickly. So the first option is the cash out refinance, okay? And so some of the pros of the cash out refinance: you got into the home with an FHA loan, okay? So when you refinance, then your loan turns to a conventional loan, and now you have an FHA loan that's free. So as you pull out the cash for that down, you pull out that cash out the property, right? You pull all the cash out. Now, not only are you liquid, but now you have an FHA loan that's available for another property. So that first property turns into an investment property, and this new property you use, and you can acquire that with that FHA loan, and you already have the money for the down payment, right? Because we pulled all the cash out. So you can do this over and over and again. You know what I'm saying? So the rules vary from state to state, but I think it's pretty safe to say the rule of thumb is you'll need to live in that house as your primary residence for a year before you want to do this cash out refinance option. But you can do this as many times as you want. You know what I mean? Some of the cons, which is what we're facing right now, when the interest rates are high, this option becomes very expensive. So if you were to do a refinance, so like say for instance, one of the properties that we bought recently, the interest rate was around 3.25, about 3.5 when we came into this home in about 2020. If we were to exercise the refinance option right now, where the interest rates are where they are, it would be more than double that. So, you know, if you're paying $1,000 for your mortgage, because you came in when the interest rates were 3.5%, now it might be 8.5, you know, or whatever it is right now. Now you're going to be paying more than double that. So you remember, if we're building wealth, we want to reduce expenses and increase the cash flow. So that would kind of go against that basic principle, because for that second house, even though we could exercise this strategy and we rent it out, we're still working against more than double a mortgage, right? So that's going to cut into our profit margin. It's going to make us hard for it to really make sense, right? Second way that you can pull money out of that home is this home equity loan. I'm sure everybody's familiar with a HELOC loan. And this is when you're borrowing against the asset. Okay, so when we start talking about all of this we're doing, we're going to talk about from the bank's perspective and from the consumer's perspective, because we're going to be talking about this from the other side once we pull out all this cash. But this is how the bank sees you. So now the bank is going to give you this loan, and you're borrowing against the asset. So if you default on that loan, you don't pay for that. You don't pay for the conditions of the loan. You default on it. They can come for your asset. They can come for your home, right? But it's also a wealth building tool because you can borrow against that asset, right? And as long as you're purchasing, and I would say the rule of thumb in all of these scenarios, no matter where the money is coming from, right? We're going to be talking about several different strategies to where you can access capital and leverage different tools to you know what I mean, be able to be in a situation where you're purchasing cash producing assets. As long as you're purchasing cash producing assets, it's going to be a win at the end of the day, because you want to be making more money every month than how much you're spending every month, right? So very basic concept. So when you're borrowing against the home equity loan, one of the pros is you don't have to take out that whole amount. So you could just borrow enough to obtain a cash producing asset, and you could leave the rest of that equity in the home, right? And it's also two separate loans, right? The reason why I personally don't like this strategy is because, you know, a lot of people have got caught up because what they write in fine print is when you take a home equity loan, they can ask for full repayment at any time. You know what I mean? So even if I say I take $50,000 out of a home and I purchase some vending machines, and I got three, and all three are making me $1,500 a month. So I'm making $4,500 a month. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing good. You know what I'm saying? Because all I gotta do is pay off this loan, and I'm cash flowing 4,500. So you know what I mean? I'm about, you know, 3,500, 4,000 or something like that to the good. But if they call me on that loan and they need that $50,000 all at one time, and I'm only making $4,500 at a month, then I can't pay that back. Now I'm in a situation where they can come for my asset, you know what I'm saying, my home. So I don't like that scenario. You know what I mean? And it's not necessarily a likely scenario, but when you're talking about a home and you're talking about your home, especially if this is your first project, you don't want to leave anything to chance. And so that's why I don't like this option right here. This third option, easyknock.com, and and we have another solution for you in addition to that. But it's the same concept, right? This is where you can sell them your home. Okay, so this is where we'll get into some mindset training, and if you can get out of the emotion of being a homeowner, right? Because traditionally, if I'm a homeowner, that means I basically got approved for a loan and I'm financing that home over 10 years, over 30 years. And in any given scenario, if I miss a few payments, now I'm in danger of, number one, it affecting my credit report. You know what I'm saying? They're reporting late payments on my credit report. And then if I really get in trouble, then they can come for my home and they'll foreclose it. And now the bank owns my home. You know what I mean? So, there's a lot of things that's outside of your control. You know what I'm saying? When you go that traditional route as a homeowner, and you'll be paying that. And to me, when you're looking at in terms of assets and liabilities, if I purchase a home and all I'm doing is paying a mortgage every month, that's cash that's leaving my household every month. So that means that my house is a liability. So we know that the house and maybe your car, those would be your two biggest expenses. So if we can figure out a way to make our two biggest expenses an asset, now we've set up and we've laid a foundation for wealth creation indefinitely, right? Because we're cash flowing every month. So what EasyKnock does, and then also Casey Capital, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but they'll give you 75% of the value of your home. So if your home is, again, that same $100,000 home, you know what I mean? Instead of you paying $1,000 a month, and you know what I'm saying, that, and you losing that $1,000 every month, you get paid $75,000 at one time, right? And now internally, now you don't have to move. You're gonna rent from them, okay? And this is based on average rents in the area, so it's not tied to the interest rate and everything like that. Because if you're talking about the money that you can pull out, it's very similar in terms of the amount to the cash out refinance. Because when you pull the cash out, you could pull out about 70%, 75%, right? But one major difference is the debt to income ratio. You know what I mean? I still have that debt on the books. You know what I'm saying? I'm still fine. I did a refinance. You know what I'm saying? So I got back into the situation to where I'm in debt. Okay. So that debt is still on the book. So if you talk about my debt to income or your debt to income, that debt is still on top of you. Okay. When you do the cash out refinance. When you sell Easy Knock Your Home or Casey Capital, you sell them your home. Now that debt is no longer on your back. Okay. So now your debt to income ratio is a lot better. Okay. Because now not only have you pulled out that cash, but now you have that debt to income working for you. And now this is going to allow you to have a lot more opportunities for other things, right? Because the reason why we're pulling this money out is because we want to start investing. We want to maybe invest our business. We want to fund our business. We might have, most of y'all are in real estate. So we're trying to find creative ways to get capital to participate in some of these properties, whether we're wholesaling or we're purchasing a tax property or the different strategies that y'all are implementing. This will allow you to participate in that process. You can buy a vending machine. You can do anything, start your own business, run some ads. When you pull that money out, it allows you to participate in the wealth producing process, right? Another thing that you do is you retain all appreciation rights. So if the property is gaining appreciation over time, right? Again, this property right now, we bought it in 2020, and that was a time when COVID was very new. So from that point to where we are now, there's a natural appreciation of the property. You know what I mean? If we never did anything to the property, we made renovations and everything like that. But even if we hadn't made those renovations, there's a natural appreciation of the property. So you still retain those appreciation rights. Okay. You have the ability to sublet. So those of y'all that are familiar with the concept of house hacking, you can still participate in that process, right? Um, Also, maintenance is covered. Okay, so if something breaks in your house, is you're renting from them. Okay, so and Easy Knock and Casey Capital and they're very good with covering maintenance and everything like that. Also, when you sell to somebody else, you'll get the remaining 25%, and give them the rest, or you have the option to buy it back. So all we're doing is we're pulling the cash out of our home so we can start participating and making investments and putting things in things like indexed annuities where it's impossible to lose money. You know what I mean? If the value of the stock market is going down, then you just kind of flatline. When it goes back up, then you go up. So you're just raising your floor. So we have the ability to put money into things. A lot of us know exactly how we can get wealth if we could just get access to this capital. And this is why this strategy is so powerful, because this is how we access capital, right? Um, but getting to the fact of the matter is, how do you build your own bank? Okay. So you can read, I'm gonna get this book right here. It's called The Banker's Code. Okay. So I want y'all to tap into this book right here, The Banker's Code. Hopefully y'all can see that. If y'all have any questions, you can just put it in the chat. But this teaches you how to be your own bank. Okay. Nelson Nash. There's a lot of books on it. It's called The Infinite Banking Concept, Insurance Banking. A lot of y'all have heard from it. The basic concept is, you know what I'm saying, instead of you going to a bank for your purchases, you build up your bank over time, right? Because the whole life insurance policies, the cash value of that gains value over time, as well as the death benefits, right? And you can borrow against that policy to make your investments. And that's what we want to tap into, right? So why do we want to be our own bank? So, and anything that we're going over today, y'all can go to 3levelsofgame.com. Again, the link is in the chat, and you can kind of go over this, right? But we're looking at the problem number one, okay? Because we know that the wealth is in the hands of the 1% and the 10%, and that's a problem, okay? So why is this? Who's getting all that money? Okay, so number one, interest is the first problem. So financial institutions in the bank, they take 34.5% of most Americans' income. 34.5%. Okay. And to me, that's a conservative estimate, because more than 34.5% of my payments on my mortgage currently was going to the bank. You know what I'm saying? Before I participated in this process that I'm showing you now, the mortgage payment I was making, if it was $1,000, they was getting about 685 was going to interest, right? But we just have this real basic scenario of if somebody paid $5,000 for a cruise, right? And then they want to pay the monthly payment of $100 a month. The interest payment is 21% over 12 months. That's 1.75%, right? So when you take that against that 5,000, that means that 87.50 of that $100 is going towards interest, and only 12.50 is going towards your principal. Okay, so if you're only paying 12.50 a month towards that 5,000, it'll take you 400 months or 33 years to pay off that $5,000. And during those 33 years, you gave the bank $35,000. Okay, so in that scenario, would you rather be the person borrowing the money, or would you rather be the bank? And I think the answer is very easy, right? And when you start talking about building your own bank, why the 1% and the 10% have all this wealth, we're tapping into some of these secrets right now, and it really is right in front of us. Problem number two is taxes. Okay, 30% on average of your income is going towards taxes, right? Again, the solution is be your own bank. Okay, the fractional reserve system, just so we understand how money works, right? Because we can do the same thing. For every $1,000 in your bank account, that guarantees a $10,000 loan for the bank. Okay, so we borrow money, our own money at a much higher interest rate, and they tie up our homes and other assets as collateral in case we don't pay it. Okay, the government, which you pay your taxes to, and these financial institutions where all your interests are going, they're always going to operate in their own interest by charging you interest. Okay, and we know that this is a old concept because even Albert Einstein said, "Those who understand interest earn it; those who don't pay it." Okay, so there's three levels, right? Jason talked about the four levels of value earlier, right? And then in terms of how money works and everything like that, we have three different levels. On the bottom of the totem pole are the consumers. Okay, this is everybody that 64.5% of their income is going towards taxes and interest. So they're left with 35.5% to pay all their bills and live their life. Okay, and a lot of time that's not sufficient. So what do? They borrow more money and put themselves in this cycle, right? So consumers borrow money to pay for products and services. Okay, producers is level two. So that's a little bit of what we're talking about today, borrowing money to produce the products or services. So I borrow money and it's called arbitrage, right? I'm borrowing money. Let's say I'm borrowing money at 8% interest, but I'm making a 13% ROI monthly. You know what I'm saying? That's called arbitrage. So I'm borrowing money to get access to the capital to create this situation to purchase this cash producing asset or to operate a business to where I'm providing a product or a service and I'm making more money than I'm spending every month, right? So that's the next level up. The bankers, they don't take on any risk, right? You're borrowing the money from them and you're taking on all the risk and they earn interest and they set all the rules. So that's another reason why we want to hurry up and be our own bank as soon as possible, right? And this concept is even a lot more powerful when you have groups such as the group that a lot of y'all are a part of, because now we can talk about having a collective bank. You can have a family bank. You know what I mean? And the way that we like to teach it is, take care of yourself first. You know what I mean? The same concept of, if a plane's going down, they tell you to put your mask on first and then you take care of your child. You know what I mean? Take care of your family first. But then after that, you know what I mean? You can start foundations, you can start doing things. It's a very powerful tool. And we can get into that a little bit more. But when you're the banker, you set the rules, okay? So this whole life insurance policy, and I know a lot of y'all are going to do some research about which policies do we need to get involved with. We want to make sure that that whole life insurance policy, that company has been around for at least 100 years, right? It has to be mutual life, and they had to, and they need to be around for longer than at least 100 years, right? We like to deal with Forrester, we like to deal with Lafayette, National Life. All of these companies have been around for well over 100 years. So we know that no, they're not about to just sell their company. They're not going to get absorbed into another company and everything like that, because we're talking about whole life. We're talking about building a bank, not only for ourselves, but for generations to come. You know what I mean? When you're talking about when I was a basketball player and I had aspirations to be the best basketball player, I studied Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and everything like that because that's what I consider to be the best, right? And when you're talking about how can I create wealth for my family, how can I use real estate and home ownership as a tool to build generational wealth, how can I be my own bank? I need to study people like the Rockefellers, some of the wealthiest families in this nation. How did they do it? How did they set up their foundation? What did the 1% do? You know what I'm saying? So one thing so just a couple of things that we got to understand about this whole life insurance policy is it's all tax free. It's an insurance policy. So when we borrow against this insurance policy to make investments, we don't have to worry about the government coming in and taxing our profits and paying capital gains tax. All of this is tax free. And by the way, when we make investments with whole life insurance, you don't pay closing costs. Okay, so I want y'all to fact check all of these things and double check everything that we're saying, because most real estate investors, you give them this information, they're going to look at you like you're crazy just because, without lack of knowledge, my people will perish, right? So these are just the facts of the matter. You do not pay closing costs when your investments come from the insurance policy. And just as a quick exercise, I just want y'all to ask yourself, if I put $100 up and I made $200, then I made $100, right? But if I borrowed against that $100 and I made $200, then how much did I make, right? How much higher is my ROI? Because my money is not exposed. Okay, so this is a concept that really goes across the board. People that get into investing in stocks and everything like that, there's a concept of controlling shares versus owning shares, and your money not being as exposed, right? So this is a very, very powerful concept. All right, I'll give you another scenario, and then I'll kind of keep it moving. Let's say that we're going to use our own bank, right? Let's say we got this loan, we got this house. We sold our house. We still living in the house, but we pulled all the money out, right? And now we use that to fund the bank, okay? And so we're borrowing against our bank to purchase the car, okay? So yes, we do have to pay this bank back, right? But when we pay the bank back, we're paying ourselves. So that's number one. So we're not overpaying for interest. We don't mind paying interest because we're paying ourselves back. That's number one. Then in terms of the flexibility, remember, when you're the banker, you set the terms. If you borrow against a bank and you take out a car note, you got to make those payments every month, right? And they control the terms. They sending you a letter, hey, you don't pay that money, this is what's going to happen. This is what you're in danger of. You know what I mean? They're going to threaten you. They're going to change the color of the envelopes and everything like that. You know what I mean? They got all, everything they do. Y'all know how that is. That's what most Americans go through. When you borrow against your own bank, and typically the thing about this, and the reason why I'm so glad and blessed that y'all are here on this call, because most of y'all are in real estate. So you want to have an investment vehicle, right, already in place, because the last thing that you want to do is pull out the equity in your home or get all of this access to this capital, you know what I mean, or fund the bank and borrow against the bank and you lose that money, right? You want to borrow against that bank to make other investments. You see what I'm saying? So that's the powerful thing about these whole life policies, right? Because you're just borrowing against it, right? So very key, very, very important. Another thing that I want y'all to realize, and I'll just kind of I'll just keep it moving. And if there's any questions, put it in the chat. I'll check this kind of temporarily as we continue to go. If y'all have any questions, please put it in the chat, and I'll try to get to that as soon as I can. Okay. Boom, author. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm kind of late. So the author of the Bankers Code is George Antoni. Okay, George Antoni. So boom. So all right. So that's the author of the Bankers Code. Okay, just to kind of move forward. So back to that concept where we bought the car, right? Let's say that we couldn't pay it back right away, right? Where did we get the money from? We borrowed it from the life insurance policy. So let's go through the worst case scenario really quickly. If I go the traditional route, what are they going to do? They're going to repossess my car. My credit is jacked up, and now it's an uphill battle. You know what I mean, to get back in good financial standing, right? And so there's a domino effect, a snowball effect of a whole bunch of catastrophic events that can happen to you financially, right? And it can happen pretty quickly. Lose your job, anything, get sick, anything can happen, right? When you borrow against your bank, if you don't pay that money back, all you're doing, worst case scenario, is you're taking away from the cash benefits and the death benefits, right? But you're never in danger of losing your car. You're never in danger of somebody coming for your assets. Nobody's going to threaten you. Nobody's going to chase you down, because really that's your own money that you're borrowing against, okay? So that's kind of the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is we continue to make investments and put more money into our banks, and then we increase our buying power, right? So again, the reason why I say it's powerful that y'all do this as a group, because as you can fund a bank, now you can borrow money out to make a profit. All right, you have the ability to be the bank. You can lend money out with interest rates, and you make money on that, and that money is guaranteed, right? Because the investor takes on all of the risk, right? The bank is not taking any of the risk, right? The bank is just lending the money out. You take the risk and make sure you get me my money. And if you're smart, then you're gonna borrow. You're gonna have, just like they do. They're gonna be borrowing that money against a hard asset. Okay, so now you're on the other side of the equation. You could also do this to be a blessing to somebody. You know what I'm saying? Just let them borrow the money so they can get access to a business and they can kind of build their business. I'm sure there's a lot of you that have business ideas or real estate strategies that you know that you could execute. You got your plan in place. You've been working your cash buyer list. You got motivated sellers. You just wish you had money for Moyo. You know what I mean? Just you just had to get access to for PropStream and these tools, and maybe you want to pay a VA, and you just need some things to streamline your business. When you have access to capital, you can do these things, right? So that's the power of this, right? So let me go to this banker's code really quickly. Um, and this is just a mindset thing, right? It's just a mindset thing. So the consumer, right? And this is one of the part of the chapters from the book. The mindset of the consumer is, I don't like taking risks. Having a business is too risky, and I'll save up my money to become wealthy. And he says if you do this efficiently, this can take about 40 years. You know what I mean? That's why people are retiring. They start their careers in their 20s and their 30s, and then you're in your 60s and your 70s when you start retiring, right? So this is the consumer, right? So if 1% of us is getting wealthy, we know that we don't want to do the same things, right? The producer is, I can't imagine working for somebody else. I can never be a consumer. Having a job is too risky. Okay, there's too many things outside of my control. You know what I mean? I have a family member that was the salesman of the year, right? And because of budget cuts, they had to lay off 50% of the department, and they did it based on seniority and not performance. And they ended up firing the salesman of the year. So not only did he not do anything wrong, he was exceeding and excelling at his job, but lost his job. Why? Because of the conditions of the corporation, right? Because at the end of the day, they're going to operate in their own interest. So this is how the producer thinks. Having a job is too risky because there's too many factors outside of my control, right? And then they say, I'm going to become wealthy in 10 years or less. That's give or take depending on the nature of your business, okay? And then the banker's code is, I can't imagine having a job or dealing with employees. Okay, so if I have my own business and I get to the right side of that cash flow quadrant, you know what I'm saying? Like Jason said, at level one, I'm the implementer. You know what I mean? I'm the one that's cutting the grass. And then I buy some supplies and an equipment and everything like that. And I hire some employees in there, and they're doing the work for me. And now I can make money passively. But what happens if they don't show up? You know what I mean? What happens if they curse one of the customers out? You know what I mean? What happens if they do a bad job, they run over some roses or anything? You know what I mean? And I'm sure Jason could come on and testify in terms of employees costing you money. You know what I mean? Like Jason has a moving business, and so that's and a trucking business. So you could be moving somebody, and they just drop the TV. You know what I mean? And now you have to pay the customer for a brand new TV, but guess what? That employee still want to get paid, right? So dealing with employees.
I can write a book about it, Coach Nick.
I know you fine with that. Yeah, man. But yeah, so there's a lot of problems that you could potentially have with employees. And mind you, I want y'all to kind of take some notes on these things, because these are all concepts we want to take a deep dive into, because these are spiritual concepts, like Jason said, that we want to tap into when we're training employees, right? So it's a capitalistic concept, right? We don't want to be capitalistic. We do want to be entrepreneurial. We do want to be to gain wealth, but capitalistic has certain implications that we are not in tune with, right? Capitalism means there's a connotation that means I'm gonna exploit somebody, right, for their talents and their effort and their time or whatever, and I'm gonna keep them in the same position, right? So we don't want to take on that mentality because how could we be blessed, right? So when we have an employee and if I'm in a management position, right? And I'm kind of going off script a little bit because this is how you read in between the lines. If I'm in management and I'm managing somebody, I'm not looking at like these people are people that serve me and they need to do everything that I say. My mentality is I'm going to be a blessing to these people. I'm going to lift them up. So I'm the one that's going to give them the game. I've already read these books. I went ahead and I took all the bumps and the bruises of having my own business. I know what works, what doesn't work. So as I manage them, right, I'm gonna be a blessing to them. I'm gonna teach them how to do this job. So they're gonna lift me up. As I give them a pay raise, you know what I'm saying? They're raising me up if it's done properly, right? Because you want to give them principles, like Jason said, give them principles that's gonna increase their mindset, right? Increase their wealth and be a blessing to them, right? So that's a whole nother concept of how do you train people to replace you, or how do you train people to come up under you so you can have a business model that really works. Because if your employees don't have the same mentality and same level of efficacy that you do, is it really passive income, right? Because then you're going back behind your employees, you're still working double time, right? So this is the banker's code. The banker's saying, I don't even want to deal with all that. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let the investor take all the risk. I'm gonna just make money off of money. Okay, so go to your bank and ask your bank, is your money just sitting still, or is the money that's sitting in your bank, are they putting it to work? Right, they're taking your money and they're lending it out again. Right, it's called the velocity of money, the speed of money. So they make money off of money. This is the banker's mentality. Okay, um, and then of course they say I'm gonna stick to this very simple model and I'm gonna keep my mouth shut about it. Why? Because who are the bankers? Who are they dependent on? They're dependent on the producers and the consumers. Because if they're not going to the bank to borrow the money, if everybody's the bank, then the banks, you know what I mean, what are they going to do? They only make money off of people borrowing money from them. Okay. So this is why when you do some research and you say, well, what are all these wealthy people doing? And I won't say any names because I don't want to get into politics, but let's just say you look at wealthy people, how are they doing all this money? You know what I'm saying? He made all of this money and what's going on with his taxes? He ain't paying no taxes. It's illegal. Nah, that's an emotional decision that's an emotional conclusion that we coming to. You know what I mean? They're parking their money somewhere that's tax free, right? They're making their money work for them, and they're minimizing their risk. Okay, so I kind of want to stop there. I want to be real considerate of y'all's time. I want to go back to these resources real quickly, and then we can kind of open it up for questions. So we talked about Easy Knock, and so there's another program called the Sell and Stay program that just launched. And so everybody has access to this right here through the website, right? So I want y'all to kind of take a look at this, but it's the same concept that we're talking about. Nothing different. You know what I mean? Your credit and your income requirements, that's only for screening use only. So what that means is if you have access, if you already own a home, then you could participate in this process immediately. You know what I mean? Even if you have bad credit. What we'll be screening for is if it's something egregious like, you know, several bankruptcies, you defrauded some companies, or it's something really egregious, then of course we couldn't do business with you. But just bad credit, you know, we can work with that because we want you to win. You know what I'm saying? We're empowering people. You know what I'm saying? So the people in this network understand these concepts. They've been able to empower themselves and leverage their relationships to create situations like this to now where we can offer money or we can offer wealth producing situations for people. And now we don't have the same mentality to where we're going to hold you back because of your credit. You know what I mean? We're going to give you this cash flow. Anybody can have good credit with business credit, personal credit. When you got cash flow, your credit messed up because you ain't got no cash, right? So we're not really worried about that. We're really just screening for anything egregious. And any questions y'all have about the process, we have a FAQ section right here that y'all can have access to. And then other than that, like I said, at the bottom of the screen, y'all can just click on customer service and ask us questions directly. Okay.